There's a paradox that's destroying an entire generation of disciplined people. Not the lazy ones, not the unmotivated, the disciplined ones. People who wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, who go to the gym religiously, who build businesses, study at night, optimize every hour. People who do everything society tells them success requires. And they're self-destructing. It's not from lack of effort. It's from too much effort without understanding what makes effort actually work. In feudal Japan, there was a principle called kan. It means the space between things, the silence between musical notes, the pause between sword strikes. The emptiness that makes fullness possible. Westerners focus obsessively on the notes. The Japanese understood, without silence, you don't have music, you have noise. And right now, your life might be nothing but noise. The question isn't whether you're disciplined enough. It's whether you understand the space between your discipline where real power actually lives. Chapter 1. The Man Doing Everything Right. San Francisco, present day. Marcus Chen, 28 years old, sat in his apartment at 3 a.m. staring at a wall. He'd done everything right. Built a tech startup to $15K monthly revenue. Woke at 5 a.m. for 3 years straight. Trained 6 days a week. Body fat under 12%. Read 50+ books yearly. Maintained a relationship. By every metric, he was winning. So why did he feel like he was dying? His hands wouldn't stop shaking. His heart raced constantly. Sleep came in 2-hour fragments. Food tasted like cardboard. And the worst part? His company's growth had plateaued despite working 80-hour weeks. His girlfriend Sarah found him there at 3 a.m. again. Marcus, this is the 4th night this week. I can't turn my brain off. The company should be at $50K by now. We're stuck. I'm stuck. You're not stuck. You're working 14 hours a day. You're growing. Not fast enough. That phrase had become his mantra. Nothing was ever fast enough, good enough, sufficient. Earlier that week, his co-founder Jake had confronted him. Dude, you're burning out the team. You sent 47 Slack messages yesterday. On Sunday. About minor details. You're micromanaging everything. I'm not micromanaging. I'm maintaining standards. No, you're anxious. And it's spreading. 3 people mentioned they're thinking of leaving. Marcus dismissed it. They just didn't understand the urgency. Competition was fierce. Every wasted moment meant losing ground. But deep down, a voice whispered, what if Jake's right? What if I'm the problem? The breaking point. Friday evening. Marcus in his weekly training session with his Muay Thai coach, Mike. All right, 4 rounds. Let's go. First round. Marcus pushed hard. Tired but managing. Second round. Movements sloppy. Breathing ragged. Third round. Stumbled. Nearly fell. Mike stopped the timer. When did you last take a rest day? I don't need rest days. I need to improve. Marcus, you're overtraining. Your body can't recover. You're actually getting weaker the more you train right now. That's not how it works. That's exactly how it works. Your body grows during rest, not during work. Right now you're just breaking down tissue with no time to rebuild. So what? I just stopped training? You take strategic rest. You trust the process. You stop trying to force growth. The words triggered something. Stop trying to force growth. That night, Marcus collapsed during dinner. Not dramatically, just sat down heavily. Couldn't get back up. Pure exhaustion. Sarah called it, we're going to the hospital. I'm fine. You're not fine. And if you won't take care of yourself, I'll make you. Chapter 2. The Unexpected Teacher. Hospital. 2 a.m. The ER doctor found nothing physically wrong. Blood work normal. Heart fine. Neurologically intact. It's severe burnout. Your body is in constant fight or flight mode. You need rest. I rest. I sleep. Sleep isn't rest. Not the kind you need. You need to stop. As Marcus left the hospital, defeated, he noticed an older Japanese man sitting in the waiting room. Maybe 60. Calm presence, reading a book. Their eyes met. The man smiled slightly. Forgive me, the man said. but I couldn't help overhearing. "You sound like my nephew, always pushing, never stopping." Marcus normally would have kept walking, but something about the man's calm energy drew him. "Is your nephew okay?" "He had a breakdown, similar to yours. He came to train with me for a summer, learned what he was missing." Which was MA, the space between. He was so focused on filling every moment with action that he left no room for actual growth. Marcus sat. "I don't understand." "Of course not. Your culture doesn't teach MA. You teach constant productivity. Fill every second. Optimize every moment." "But," he paused, "a bow drawn constantly loses tension. A sword swung endlessly dulls. A warrior fighting without pause dies not from enemies, but from exhaustion." "Who are you?" "Takeshi Yamamoto. I teach traditional martial arts and philosophy. My family line traces back to samurai." He handed Marcus a card. "If you want to understand why your discipline is destroying you instead of building you, come to my dojo tomorrow." 6 a.m. Something in Marcus's gut said, "Go." Chapter 3. The First Lesson. MA. Space Between. Yamamoto Dojo. Next morning, Marcus arrived expecting intense training, weapons, sparring, discipline. Instead, Takeshi led him to a quiet room, sat him down, and said, "Sit. Do nothing. 20 minutes. That's it. That's everything. Can you do it?" Marcus thought this was a joke. Of course he could sit for 20 minutes. 60 seconds in. Mind racing with company problems. 2 minutes. Mentally drafting emails. 3 minutes. Calculating if he should be at the gym instead. 5 minutes. Leg bouncing. Fingers tapping. Jaw clenched. Takeshi watched silently. After 20 minutes, how was that? Harder than expected. You couldn't sit still for 20 minutes. Your body was here, but your mind was everywhere else. You have no May, no space, just constant noise. He stood, walked to a sound system, played a piece of classical Japanese music. Listen, not to the notes, to the silences between them. At first, Marcus only heard music. Then gradually, he heard something else. Pauses, deliberate spaces where no sound existed. And those spaces made the notes more powerful. "In feudal Japan," Takeshi began, "samurai trained relentlessly. But they understood something crucial. The pause between sword strikes is what makes the strike powerful. If you swing constantly, you exhaust yourself, lose form, strike weakly. But if you swing, pause, gather energy, then strike again, each strike carries maximum force. Your life right now is swinging constantly. No pauses, no MA. Just endless swinging until you can barely lift the sword." Marcus felt something click. "So I need to rest more?" "Not just rest. Strategic emptiness. Creating space deliberately where growth happens." Takeshi explained, "This is the principle of Mokurai, mole, thunderous silence. Samurai masters understood that silence contains power. That stillness creates energy. That doing nothing is doing something profound." His voice took on a deeper quality, as if speaking beyond just Marcus. This wisdom echoes through generations. Warriors who understood that constant action creates weakness, not strength. That the space between efforts is where mastery is forged. In your time, in your world, others struggle with this same trap, filling every moment with productivity until there's no room left to actually grow, running so constantly they can't feel when they're running in circles. At Presence and Purpose, we preserve this ancient understanding. Not the easy message of work harder. The difficult truth of stop more strategically. Because discipline without MA isn't discipline. It's self-destruction dressed as virtue. If you recognize yourself, if you're doing everything right but collapsing anyway, this teaching awaits. Not to make you lazy, to make you actually effective. Because power lives in the spaces between your actions, not just in the actions themselves. Marcus sat with this. "How do I learn MA?" "You already started. Tomorrow, same time. We continue." Chapter 4. The samurai parallel. Historical wisdom. The next day, dojo. Takeshi began with a story. 1615. Edo period Japan. A young samurai named Kenji trained under the legendary swordsman Yagyu Munenori. Kenji was talented, dedicated. He practiced 12 hours daily, yet in every sparring match he lost to students who trained half as much. Frustrated, he approached his master. "I practice more than anyone. Why do I lose?" Munenori replied, "Because you practice without pause. Like water without container, your effort spills everywhere and achieves nothing." He gave Kenji new instruction. Practice 1 hour with complete focus. Then, 1 hour of complete stillness. Alternate through the day. Kenji protested. "That's half as much training." "No," Munenori said. "It's twice as effective. The stillness is where your body integrates learning. Without it, you're just repeating mistakes faster." Within 3 months, Kenji surpassed students who trained constantly. Why? Because he'd learned Ma. Takeshi turned to Marcus. "Modern neuroscience proves what samurai knew. Your brain physically cannot integrate learning during constant activity. It needs default mode network activation, which only happens during rest. When you train, you create micro-tears in muscle and neural pathways. During rest, they rebuild stronger, but you're not resting, you're constantly tearing. So you're getting weaker while thinking you're building strength." He continued, "The principle applies everywhere. Business. You work 80 hours weekly. But how many are truly productive? Probably 20. The rest is just activity masquerading as work. You're confusing motion with progress. Physical. You train 6 days weekly. Your body never fully recovers. You're in constant breakdown mode. 1 day of complete rest would make your 6 training days exponentially more effective. Mental. Your mind never stops. It's like leaving a computer running constantly with 47 programs open. Eventually, it crashes. That's what happened to you." The deeper truth. Samurai understood. Power accumulates in stillness, not in action. The sword's force comes from the gathering before the strike. The arrow's flight depends on the draw before release. The punch's impact requires the coil before extension. You cannot gather what you're constantly spending. MA isn't absence of action. It's strategic presence of nothing, so that action becomes powerful. Chapter 5. The practice begins. Takeshi gave Marcus 3 practices. Practice 1. The MA morning. 5 minutes of deliberate nothing. Every morning before checking your phone, sit for 5 minutes and do absolutely nothing. No meditation techniques, no breathing exercises. Just exist. In MA, the space before action. Marcus tried. Day 1 was agony. His mind screamed about wasted time. Day 4. Something shifted. The 5 minutes of nothing made the subsequent work more focused. Day 7. He realized he'd been so scared of stillness because stillness let him feel how anxious he actually was. The constant motion was medication, not productivity. Practice 2. Work in rhythms. 90 minutes. Work. 15 minutes complete rest. No half measures. For 90 minutes, work with complete focus. Then 15 minutes of true rest. No phone, no productive activities. Just MA. This felt impossible. Marcus had trained himself to always be on. But he tried. The first 90-minute block was more productive than his usual 4-hour distracted sessions. The 15-minute rest felt wrong but necessary, like muscles resting between sets. By week 2, the rhythm became natural. And paradoxically, working less time created more output. Practice 3. 1 weekly Sabbath. 24 hours. Complete stop. Choose 1 day weekly. Do nothing productive. No work. No optimization. No improvement. Just existence. But I'll lose momentum. Momentum without rest is exhaustion. Real momentum includes recovery. Marcus chose Sundays. The first Sunday nearly drove him insane. By hour 3, he was pacing, anxious, convinced he was wasting his life. But he endured, and something happened. By Monday, he felt sharper than he had in months. Chapter 6. The Neuroscience and Application. Week 4. Understanding why it works. Takeshi explained the science. Your brain has 2 networks. 1. Task-positive network, TPN, active during focused work, solves problems, executes tasks. 2. Default mode network, DMN, active during rest, processes experiences, integrates learning, generates insights. You've been running TPN 24/7, but DMN never activates. So you learn nothing, process nothing, integrate nothing. Studies show people solve complex problems better after resting than after continued effort, because DMN is where breakthrough happens. Ma deliberately activates DMN. Strategic, nothing creates the space where growth actually occurs. The practical framework. 5 levels of MA. Level 1. Micro MA. Seconds. Pause 3 seconds between emails before replying. Breathe twice before responding in conversations. Wait 5 seconds before checking notifications. Level 2. Mini MA minutes. 5 minutes of stillness upon waking. 15 minutes. Between focused work blocks. 10 minutes before bed. Without screens. Level 3. Miso MA. Hours. 1 evening weekly with 0 productivity. Saturday morning without agenda. 1 meal daily with no multitasking. Level 4. Macro MA days. Full Sabbath day weekly. 1 weekend, monthly, completely off. 1 week yearly of true vacation. Level 5. Meta MA. Life. Accepting seasons of less output. Not filling every moment with achievement. Letting some things be incomplete. You start with level 1. Add layers gradually. Eventually, MA becomes as natural as breathing. Chapter 7. The Transformation. Month 3. Marcus's life looked different. Company. Revenue hit $28K, not from working more, but from clearer decisions made during MA moments. He'd cut wasteful projects he couldn't see while in constant motion. Body. Leaner, stronger. Training 4 days weekly with complete recovery days. Making more progress than 6-day grind. Relationship, Sarah noticed immediately. You're actually here now, not just physically present with your mind elsewhere. Mental state. The constant anxiety diminished. Not gone, but manageable. Because he'd stopped feeding it with endless motion. The moment of clarity. During a morning MA practice, insight struck. All these years, I confused motion with progress. Noise with music. Constant action with effective action. The samurai knew. Silence between strikes is what makes strikes powerful. Space between notes is what makes notes music. MA between actions is what makes actions matter. I wasn't failing from lack of discipline. I was failing from discipline without wisdom. Working without MA is just productive self-destruction. During evening meditation, deeper understanding arose not from Marcus but through him. This understanding, this need for strategic emptiness, warriors across all time have discovered this, that you cannot pour from empty, that constant giving depletes. That space must exist for power to accumulate. At Presence and Purpose, we teach what modern culture forgot, that doing nothing is doing something profound, that rest is as disciplined as work, that MA isn't laziness, it's mastery. For those exhausted from doing everything right, for those burning out despite perfect discipline, for those who need permission to stop, this practice awaits. Every week, the ancient wisdom that sustainable high performance requires strategic emptiness. That power lives between your actions, that sometimes the most disciplined thing you can do is nothing. The thought passed, but its truth remained embedded. Chapter 8. The 5 Practical Steps. Month 6. Marcus created a system he called the MA Protocol. Step 1. Morning MA ritual, 5 minutes. Absolute nothing. Sit in silence before any input. No meditation technique, just being. Create space before the day begins. Step 2. Rhythmic work. Blocks 90/15 split. 90 minutes. Completely focused work. 15 minutes complete. Rest. Walk. Sit. Stare at wall. no more than 3 blocks daily. Step 3. Weekly Sabbath. 1 full day. 0 productive activity. No work, no optimization, no improvement. Pure recovery and presence. Step 4. Quarterly MA review. 1 day per quarter. Examine what's working. Identify what's noise versus music. Cut ruthlessly what's not essential. Step 5. Annual reset. 1 week yearly. Complete disconnection. Let mind fully rest. Return with clarity impossible to find in constant motion. These 5 practices transformed everything. Not because I started doing more, because I started understanding that space between doing is where actual power lives. Chapter 9. Kenji's story. Historical parallel continued. Takeshi shared the rest of Kenji's story. After mastering Ma, Kenji faced his greatest test, a duel with a master swordsman who'd never lost. Everyone expected Kenji to attack aggressively, using his famous speed. Instead, he stood perfectly still. His opponent attacked. Kenji didn't counter, he shifted slightly, creating space. Ma. The opponent attacked again. Kenji again created space. This continued. The opponent growing frustrated, wasting energy on attacks that met only empty space. Finally exhausted, the opponent dropped his guard for a fraction of a second. Kenji struck once. Victory. After, someone asked, "How did you defeat him?" Kenji replied, "I didn't. I simply gave him space to defeat himself." The victory lived in the MA, not in my action. Takeshi looked at Marcus. This is the ultimate lesson. Often the most powerful action is strategic inaction. You don't need to force everything. Sometimes creating space allows solutions to emerge naturally. 6 months later, Marcus sat in his apartment. Different than 6 months ago. Same time, 3 a.m., but this time sleeping peacefully until Sarah gently woke him. "Babe, you're smiling in your sleep." "Really?" "Yeah. First time I've seen that in years." The changes were profound. Company, $45K monthly revenue, but more importantly, sustainable. Happy team, clear strategy, not from grinding harder, from thinking clearer during MA. Body, best shape of his life. Training 3 to 4 days weekly with full recovery. Stronger than when training 6 days exhausted. Mental, anxiety still arose, but didn't control him. He'd learned to create MA around it, space to observe without being consumed. Relationship, Sarah pregnant. They decided together, calmly, during a MA weekend. Not from obligation or pressure, but from genuine readiness. Teaching others. Marcus started mentoring young entrepreneurs. His main lesson: you'll work hard. You should, but learn MA early. Learn that constant motion isn't productivity, that silence isn't emptiness, that space between actions is where power accumulates. The samurai knew, you can only strike powerfully if you pause to gather energy first. Modern culture tells you to fill every moment. Ancient wisdom knows, the empty moments are what make the full moments matter. Ending the final wisdom. 1 year later, Marcus met Takeshi for tea. Final lesson. You've learned Ma, but do you understand it? I think so. It's about rest, about balance. Deeper, Marcus thought. It's about the space where growth happens. Closer, but still surface. Takeshi poured tea slowly, deliberately. The silence stretched. Then, MA isn't just space between things. MA is the canvas that makes the painting possible, the silence that makes music meaningful, the emptiness that gives form to form. Without MA, nothing exists properly. Every note becomes noise. Every action becomes motion without meaning. Every moment becomes anxiety without presence. You learn to create Ma. Now understand. Ma was always there. You just filled it with so much noise you couldn't hear it. Your task isn't to create MA, it's to stop destroying it. Marcus understood. Completely. Life naturally has rhythm, expansion and contraction, activity and rest, sound and silence. You don't force it, you align with it. The warrior who understands this becomes unbeatable. Not because he's stronger, because he knows when to gather, when to strike, when to wait. The silence between strikes is where the warrior lives. The space between breaths is where life exists. Ma isn't something you do, it's something you remember was always there. They sat in silence. The tea cooled. Neither rushed to speak. Finally, Marcus said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For teaching me that doing nothing is doing everything." Takeshi smiled, stood, prepared to leave, but turned back. "One more thing. This teaching, this understanding of MA continues beyond us. At presence and purpose, warriors learn what you learned. That power lives in strategic emptiness. That discipline without MA destroys. That silence is where strength gathers. If others recognize themselves in your story, if they're burning out despite perfect discipline, they should walk this path. Subscribe to teachings that challenge constant motion. Learn what samurai knew, that the space between is where mastery lives. Not because they're weak, because they're strong enough to stop. Marcus bowed. The circle complete.